What's poppin', y'all? It's your boy, Guard E3. Normally, this is where I start the countdown for the N1 podcast, but today I just wanted to take a moment of reflection for all the lives lost yesterday. It's the 23rd anniversary of the largest terrorist attack against our country, September 11th. 2,977 people lost their lives that day. 2,977 too many. It didn't need to happen. And I just wanted to take a moment of silence to really reflect on the loved ones that were lost, the first responders, just so. Thank you. We're going to continue with N1 like normal, bring you some high quality basketball conversation and entertainment. Just make sure when you go to bed tonight, hug your loved ones, tell them you love them, because tomorrow is never guaranteed. So, just so nobody's caught off guard, the intro video will start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Party reps, good setters. Got me on the mic, now let's spill the tea. Talking courtside dreams from history. Legends on the blacktop now and then. From Will to Steph, we hit it again. Both better chimes in, let's go deep. Young bloods rising, can't skip a beat. Puppy prospects with fire in their eyes. Draft night suckers and hoop dream highs. Wire to wire, bring the heat. Broadcast magic can't be beat. Do better, but go better. Who cares? Trendsetters.
What's poppin', y'all? It's your boy. It is Guard E3, and welcome back to the N1 podcast this week. Of course, right off to the side of me here, other side, ladies and gentlemen, it is who I call the greatest co-host of all time. It is Mo Better. Mo, how you doing today?
I'm doing great on a wonderful Thursday, getting ready to talk hoops with my guy Brett. You know what? That opening monologue you did, that was well done, well thought, well done. Couldn't have done it better.
I definitely appreciate that. That actually took me probably 10 takes, just because I wanted to make sure it was as respectful as possible, and I wanted to make sure I said all the right things. So I definitely appreciate that. It took me a minute to finish that.
It was well done, and I'm sure everybody out there that listened, it was well received.
Hey, Gene, I'm glad you liked the intro. I'm glad you like it. It took me a while to do that one too. So, you know how we start this, Mo? Underrated player of the week. So, you got a player for us this week, Mo?
I'm going to go with a guy that I don't know if he's underrated. I think he's underappreciated. And my underrated player this week, I'm going to go with Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace, if you know, you know. He established himself in Philadelphia in high school. He went to North Carolina, was a star in college in Carolina, came out. He was on the Washington, well, back then, were they the Wizards? They might have been the Wizards still. No, they were the Bullets. I'm sorry. He was in the Washington Bullets. At one point, on the same roster, they had Rasheed Wallace, young Juwan Howard, and Chris Webber, and didn't know what to do with the three of them. That's so Washington. But I thought Rasheed Wallace was one of those guys that easily could have averaged 28, 30 points a night. I would argue that he was almost unselfish to a fault. Even when he was on the Portland Trailblazers and he was clearly their number one option, he only took 14 shots a game. And I think that I appreciate him being unselfish, but he was one of those guys, one of those talents, Brett, that you wanted him to be a little bit more selfish, a little bit more me. I think if he was a little bit more selfish, if I'm being honest, they don't blow that 17-point lead in a game 7 against the Lakers. That doesn't happen if you get the ball to Sheed and he goes to work. But to his credit, I think he modified his game, became more of a defender / team player when he went to the Pistons. He was the missing ingredient. Once Rasheed Wallace joined the Pistons, him and Ben Wallace, I think they formed one of the best defensive front lines in the history of the NBA. Add in Tayshaun Prince with what he could do. Both Rip and Chauncey Billups were underrated defenders. Lindsey Hunter was one of the underrated defenders of all time in terms of being on the ball, going at it 94 feet. I think that he has a crazy statistic. Teams were scoring like 90 point. It was something crazy, but it was higher than any other guy on the Pistons. Lindsey Hunter had a really crazy defensive statistic in terms of points per possession. Having said all that, though, yeah, I think Sheed is just underappreciated if you look at what he did throughout his career.
It's funny because anytime somebody brings up what's a record that will never be broken, I always bring up Rasheed Wallace technical fouls in a season.
Sure.
But no, absolutely. And, luckily for your Lakers, he was unselfish, to a fault. Overall, I love that. I just love Sheed in general. He's just had such a modernized and amazing skill set that a lot of people just overlook. And it's unfortunate. He was such a big part of those Pistons teams. And they needed every single bucket that team could give them because that team could not score very well. But hey, they ran a motto: we can't score, but you can't either. So
right. They didn't score a lot, but you were gonna score a lot less. Just a dominant defensive team. And look, since we're talking about Sheed, if he doesn't miss one rotation in the series versus the Spurs, they would have been back-to-back champs. But what can I say? Things happen.
Oh, absolutely. Last week I went to the WNBA with Rickea Jackson. I'm going to double dip. I'm going to do it again because one of my favorite, I saw the most insane stat, and I loved it. It's the fact that on the 8th of September, I think it was, Camila Cardoso passed Cam Brink for this season in blocks. And to me, that shows how underrated and amazing Cam Brink was because Cam Brink tore ACL back in like the middle of June.
Right.
So she blocked 35 shots in 15 games and genuinely almost finished the WNBA season not playing half the year and still leading all the rookies in blocks. To me, that just shows the generational defensive talent that Cam Brink already is and that she will continue to be it. There's not a lot of players that just have that much of a presence at the rim to alter shots, and her having that as a rookie, whoo, look out. When she comes back healthy next year, it's going to be a lot of fun.
She's got great timing, and she's a good defender one-on-one, but she's a great weak side defender. And I think she's only going to get better once she's healthy.
Oh, absolutely. So, Mo, I did a post today on the AND1 page. And here it is, and I'll read it out loud. Who wins? The Orlando Magic did the unthinkable and acquired Tim Duncan in their offseason, and now they have made it to the NBA Finals. Both teams are fully healthy. No injuries. It's a 7-game series. Who wins? So if anybody doesn't know the backstory, the Orlando Magic in the 2000 offseason, I believe it was, almost acquired Tim Duncan, except Doc Rivers in true fashion choked that away by saying his girlfriend wouldn't be allowed on the team plane. So that's one of the biggest what-ifs in history. But in this what-if, the Magic did get Tim Duncan. And now they're matched up with the champion three-peat Lakers in the NBA Finals. No injuries, just to make this more interesting. 7-game series. One question. Who wins?
And as I look at this, it's a very, very compelling matchup. Look, I'm always going to root for the Lakers. And given a choice, we are talking about peak Shaq, peak Tim Duncan, a healthy Grant Hill, a healthy T-Mac. That's a handful. But again, we're also talking about Shaq and Kobe, and what they do together. Not to mention the role players. Derek Fisher is probably one of the more underrated role players of all time. Rick Fox was a gamer. You alluded to earlier, you're bringing Ron Harper and Robert Horry off the bench. I'm going to say that overall, the Lakers are still the better team. I think they win a 7-game series.
No, I think that's a fair assessment. I will say I do agree with the Wire to Wire Sports podcast on this one. I think it's a couple years right before prime Timmy, but he's still, ascending. And that's kind of the crazy part about Tim Duncan is him making all NBA in his rookie year. And, we can still argue that, he wasn't in his prime in 2000.
Well,
Overall,
I don't know if he was in his prime, but the guy was already an NBA champion. You know what I mean? Like, he was already the best player on the Spurs.
No, absolutely. He was just an absolute freak. Like already at this time period, and the fact that 3 years later he gets somehow even better is absolutely wild. Yeah, honestly, I'd probably go with see, this one's tough because this is before. I'd probably go with the Lakers, and honestly, the edge I'd give it to their bench.
Yeah, I mean,
you're running Robert Horry and Ron Harper off the bench. I really like that duo. I think the Orlando starting five would probably actually edge out the Lakers and overall like outscore them and outplay them. But I think the Lakers bench would bring it back, and I think the Lakers at the end of the day are a team full of veterans, and they really know how to finish the games once they get there. At the end of the day, Tim Duncan's a champion, but Grant Hill really hadn't made deep playoff runs. Mike Miller's a rookie. T-Mac, I think he made like one run with at this point. So I'm going to go with the experience of the Los Angeles Lakers in clutch time.
Yeah,
being the difference maker.
It would be close because you are talking about Grant Hill healthy at his best. Rick Fox isn't guarding Grant Hill. Horace Grant will try, but he's too quick for that. He's too quick for the young version of Horace Grant, let alone that version of Horace Grant. I remember Grant Hill slicing up Pippen and Jordan. So a prime Grant Hill, he would be the problem. T-Mac and Kobe are going to go back and forth, but we wouldn't really have a matchup for Grant Hill.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, like, you could try sliding in Robert Horry in there, but I don't think he does anything to Grant Hill either.
He's slower than Rick Fox. He can't guard Grant Hill. He gets eaten alive.
No, absolutely. That's why I think the bench would have to bring it home and keep it close, and I trust the Lakers' crunch time execution. Not to mention, we're talking about Phil Jackson team executing in clutch, or at this time, a Doc Rivers team executing in clutch. I will put my money on Phil, winning that matchup too. So,
you know what? You just brought up something that I kind of glossed over. That's right. Never mind looking at the rosters. Doc's the head coach. Of course we win the series. Of course we win the series.
This just went from a 6-7 game series to like 5. Done.
Yeah, it's a gentleman's sweep.
All right. And, today we're going to react to some pretty crazy NBA takes, or are they crazy? A lot of fun takes, but, before we get to that, breaking news, Junior Bridgman is now a Milwaukee Bucks owner. He bought 10% of the franchise. Out of all the guys, when we talk about the greatest NBA players, like off the court, obviously number one is MJ when it comes to like business and everything. But Junior Bridgman's got to be up there, man. He invested a lot of money into Wendy's. He made a ton of money back from that. Now he has enough to buy 10% of the Bucks franchise. Like, Bridgman, he was great on the court, and honestly, he's looking to be even better off of it.
Yeah, he's definitely winning in life. Junior Bridgman, I think he owned like 60 or 70 Wendy's. Just a great business acumen. I'm looking at a guy like Junior Bridgman. I'm looking at what Jamal Mashburn has done. Like, there's a lot of NBA players who had good careers, but their next career outside of the NBA, these guys are killing it. I mean, they're moguls. They're just out and out moguls. And now Junior Bridgman can turn around and buy a percentage of the team that he played for. I love it.
Yeah, everybody, we're always reminded of all the sports athletes that go broke really quickly, but we don't seem to really talk about the ones that, the non-big name ones that, that really succeed. So I'm really happy to see it. I'm happy for Junior. He definitely deserves it. So let's get to our favorite guy to talk about. And I think this is a very interesting mindset, and this almost seems like it might be a peek into the mindset of maybe why Gilbert never won a title. We're talking about playing defense and guarding players. Gil, you could have 0 points and 20 assists. To me, I stopped the fuck out of you. Brandon Jennings, no, you didn't. 20 assists is 40 points. That's dominating a game. It's a different philosophies on winning individual matchups. And to me, Brandon Jennings is 100% right in this one. Like, you got to understand, being the primary defender, sure, sometimes some people get backdoored into oblivion and there's nothing you can do about it. But also, part of being the primary defender, getting your hands in the passing lanes, make these passes difficult. If you're giving up 20 assists, I assume half of them are you're probably getting blown by, forcing help to rotate and getting kicked out to a shooter or a cutter. So overall, yeah, sorry, Gil, but Brandon is right on this one. If somebody has 0 points but 20 assists on you, you didn't do anything to him.
No. And if anything, your teammates are looking at you like you can't stay in front of this guy. Like, what's going on? Because clearly, with 20 assists, you're breaking down who's ever in front of you, and you're either setting somebody up for a lob or a layup, or you're kicking out for three. So actually, with 20 assists, half of those could be 3-pointers. So you actually would account for even more offense. Look, Gilbert Arenas was a talented player. I think he was a three-time All-Star or three-time All-NBA. So you can't say that this is coming from somebody that didn't play at a high level in terms of what he can do as an individual talent, but he wasn't a winning player. And I think the kind of mentality that he shows you pretty much daily on his own show, it spills over. If you look at the crew that he has on his show with him, they say some wild stuff, but nobody says more wild stuff than Gil. The idea that somebody got 20 dimes on you and you feel like you locked them down because they didn't score any points, you're missing it. You're missing the whole point.
And I promise you, like, no NBA defense is getting backdoor cut 20 times a game. That's just not going to happen. Like, you're not going to fall asleep enough to hand somebody 20 assists. So you're absolutely right. Like, sure, you might get, like, let's say 5 assists or so from backdoor cuts or just somebody falling asleep at the 3-point line. But yeah, if you get 20, you're getting absolutely cooked and forcing help. And there's just no other way to explain that one.
Matter of fact, let me go a step further. If the other guy has 20 assists on you, at some point Gil is sitting next to the coach.
Yeah.
You're not even finishing the game. You're clearly not stopping penetration. You're sitting next to the coach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And some more high quality takes, if that's what we want to call them. Stephon Marbury, China royalty, says that the Phoenix Suns need to add a scoring point guard next to Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant in order to reach the next level. The actual quote, they need a scoring point guard. They need a guy that can get them going, but can really go to, like the kid that plays for the Indiana Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton. He didn't play in the Olympics that much this year, but if he gets stronger, oh my God, he will be off the hook. There's so much to take from this quote, and it is absolutely hilarious to me. But Mo, I'll let you start off with this one. What do you think about Marbury saying that the Suns need more offense?
Well, first of all, how would you go about getting Halliburton? Are you trading them Booker? Because they don't want Bradley Beal. They probably don't want 36-year-old KD. I'm not sure they would even want Booker. who's a better player. But again, Halliburton is just coming into the beginning of his prime, and Booker's closer to the end. So you wouldn't actually be able to get Halliburton. If you could, you would, but that's not living in reality. And you've already got 3 guys that score over 20 a game. And all 3 of them do most of their damage in the mid-range. No, you don't need another scorer. You need an actual point guard who can run the offense and get guys in their spots and in their sets. This is another prime example of 2 things being true. Stephon Marbury was a great basketball player. I'm talking about overall, when you look at what he did at Georgia Tech, I think he was the 3-time All-Star in the NBA. He reinvents himself overseas in China. I believe he won multiple Chinese championships, multiple Chinese finals championships. And even with that said, as great a player as he is, to make that statement, it's very Shaq-like. It's, I've played the game, but I don't actually know the game. That's just sad.
Yeah, to me, like, there's a schematic. If you can't generate enough offense to score with Durant, with just Kevin Durant and Devin Booker by themselves, honestly, if you have a team with those 2 on it and you don't have enough scoring and you can't figure out how to score, that's a schematic issue. That's, at the end of the day, add in Bradley Beal, who the only, like, real value he adds at this point is scoring, and Grayson Allen, whose only skill is scoring from deep. Like, if you can't figure out how to generate offense with those 4, you probably should just change your coach. Like, I'm not even sure what to really do about that. You're just cooked at that point.
And to be fair, right, Coach Bud is actually a good coach. You know this, I know this. But I don't care how good a coach you are, you work with the roster that's in front of you. The Suns roster construction, not great. Not great. The best thing they did was add Jones because he's a legitimate point guard. And I know there are people that are a little skeptical because they're saying, like, for most of his career, Jones was a backup point guard. Right, but he wasn't a backup who played like garbage minutes. He was a backup that when he came in, the offense looked better because he's an actual point guard. I think if they allow him to play point guard, meaning Booker, meaning Bill, meaning KD, actually let him run the offense, they'll be better. They will be a better basketball team. But make no mistake, barring a rash of injuries in the Western Conference like we've never seen before, the Phoenix Suns are not title contenders. They're not.
Yeah, and if the Suns wanted Tyrese Halliburton, should have taken him rather than Jalen Smith. Like, I don't know what to tell you there. You had the chance, but you didn't pick him. So, yeah, and the thing, Tyus Jones is great. Like, if people downplay the importance of Tyus Jones, I remember a couple of years ago when Ja Morant, right before all this stuff started, he had that full season where the Memphis Grizzlies actually had a really good record with him not playing. And everybody's like, oh, look, this team doesn't need Ja Morant. I was like, no, the team needs Ja Morant. The team just has the best backup point guard in the league that can step in and keep everything moving while he's out.
Correct.
So, yeah, overall, I keep telling people the best version of the Phoenix Suns sees Bradley Beal on the bench, inserting Tyus Jones into the lineup. And I think that gives them what Tyus Jones can do for Booker and Durant, he can get them into their scoring spots. It's not them having to sit there and get physical and try to chisel their way and back them. You can run a set play off the ball and know that Tyus Jones is going to find them once Durant establishes position in the low block.
Right. I think he gives them more opportunities to catch and shoot versus them bringing the ball up and then trying to do everything off the dribble. That wears on you. So I think the idea that KD can catch the ball and just raise up, same for Booker, I think that saves their legs. You need a real point guard on that team. James Jones, a lot of people think that he's one of the better young GMs in the league. I don't see it. Maybe he's getting that credit because he's LeBron's friend, but I just don't see it. They had a good team, and what he did was he panicked. That's why he got rid of Cam Johnson. That's why he got rid of Bridges, because he panicked. And you didn't have to panic. You literally could have kept who you had and just gave them both bigger roles. It's the move that he made to what he's done to this team. It's what Joe Dumars did right after LeBron beat the Pistons. He panicked. He made a panic move. He actually made two panic moves. The first one obviously was when he drafted Darko. That's inexplicable, almost unforgivable. And then when they lost in the conference finals, he panicked and he brought in it's when they lost in the finals to the Spurs. He panicked and he got rid of Ben Wallace. He wanted more offense, so he got McDyess, and they weren't better. They never recovered from that. He made a couple of panic moves and it destroyed a team that was still one of the better teams in the NBA. But I digress.
No, absolutely. I think Ben Wallace was the most impactful piece on that Pistons team. And notice how I didn't say best. I said most impactful. The way that he could just shut down the entire paint was just absolutely game changing. And Antonio McDyess was good, but he was nowhere near the level of impact that Ben Wallace had. Yeah.
By the way, when LeBron, I think it was game 6 when LeBron scored like 25 or 29 points in the fourth quarter.
Oh yeah, 27 in a row.
That was minus Ben Wallace. There was no Ben Wallace there. Antonio McDyess was playing center. I'm just being real. Joe Dumars. Think about what he could have done right. You could have drafted Melo, could have not traded Ben Wallace, and I don't know how LeBron would ever get past you. And I've heard Ben Wallace say, well, if we had drafted Melo, then Tayshaun Prince wouldn't have been the player that he was. Ben, you got to know ball, fam. You got to know ball better than that. Your head coach is Larry Brown. You know what Larry Brown doesn't do? He don't play rookies. Melo would have been on the bench. He would have came off the bench, and with a veteran squad of Wallace, both Wallaces, Rip, Chauncey Billups, along with Larry Brown, he would have got better. He would have had to learn under those vets. You don't think that would have altered Carmelo? Of course that would have altered Carmelo. To say that you were better off drafting Darko is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of. Drafting Darko did not impact winning. You could have went to a Kroger, got a sack of potatoes, put a jersey on it, and it would have had the same impact that Darko had.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And plus, you can't really say that Melo didn't impact winning when he took the Denver Nuggets right back to the playoffs in his rookie year. So it's scary to think on how much better he could have been if he kind of learned a team first mentality from a young age, and that may have helped shape him a lot.
That's all I'm saying, that he went to a Denver team and he was immediately the man. But had he gone to the Pistons, he wouldn't have walked in there running that locker room. You think Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, and Billups was gonna? That wouldn't have went down that way. Larry Brown, that wouldn't have went down that way. I think they would have reshaped his future. That I'm not saying he wouldn't have still been a scorer, but I think he would have been more of a winning player. Hey, there are a lot of great players in the NBA, but there's reason why lots of them are not GMs. You listen to what Ben Wallace said, it's why he will never be a GM.
And the Pistons also made a third panic move. Let's be real. Allen Iverson's an all-time great talent, but
that was Joe Dumars. Yeah, that was Joe Dumars again.
No way, shape, or form does Allen Iverson fit with the Pistons' identity or what they wanted to do. He was a complete 180 from what the Pistons' culture was, but they made the move anyway, and it went horribly.
And not coincidentally, what happened when Billups went to the Nuggets? They went to the conference finals.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Chauncey's just like the ultimate winner. I love Chauncey. He just shows up, balls out, and
I love Allen Iverson. Seeing him in a Pistons and then a Grizzlies jersey, that was painful.
Yeah, no, 100%. Allen Iverson, I remember you actually posted about it on TikTok. I think he gets so underrated by a lot of the majority of everybody online, and it's wild to me.
What it is though, it's the disconnect between a lot of the younger fans and the older fans, and they was, oh, well, old heads think everybody was great. And they're like, well, AI, yeah, he scored 30 points a night, bro, but he took like 27 shots. It was a different era. And if you look at the roster construction of the Sixers, that wasn't by accident. Larry Brown wanted a bunch of dogs, and he wanted to surround Allen Iverson with dogs and make Allen Iverson the primary of everything they did offensively. And it worked. It worked. And that got replicated, by the way, from Tom Thibodeau. He did the same thing when he had all those dogs around Derrick Rose, and it worked to a degree. Now, they didn't get to a finals, but it was the same strategy. But it was a different time. If you put Allen Iverson in this current NBA and you go, well, he wasn't a great 3-point shooter. If you make the same statement that today's players would adjust to the physicality of the mid 80s and 90s, you'd have to be just as fair and go, because the 3-point shot is more prevalent today, that Allen Iverson would work on his three more. He would put in the time, not to mention in the space that they play in today. How many free throws Allen Iverson shooting a game? 15, 16? Nobody standing in front of him.
I think peak AI was like 10 or 11 there. So he probably had I would say like peak AI probably gets to about 12 in this era, 13.
Yeah, he's giving you 10 in the hand checking era. I think people forget Kobe and AI spent 9 years of their career in the hand checking era. You think Allen Iverson's not going to live at the free throw line in this era? Of course he would. Come on, man. Y'all smarter than that. The fact that they were more physical, sure, that absolutely affected his field goal. That affected everybody's field goal percentage. Isaiah Thomas, you can go down the list.
I remember when James Harden was still on, Philly a couple of years ago there, and somebody's like, "What if you added Allen Iverson to this squad?" I'm like, "Oh no, please don't." I'm adding Allen Iverson to Joel Embiid and James Harden. We're averaging like 60 free throws a game between those two. Like, these games are going to take 7 hours.
Oh my God, Brett, Sixer games would be so long that they would have like 10 TV timeouts. So the fans could just stand up and stretch their legs. That's how long the games would last. You would have 3 guys averaging 12 to 15 free throws a game. That's insane.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, people will use that like it's a bad. They'll be like, "Well, AI took 30 shots," and to me, I'm like, "Do you understand how tiring it is to shoot the basketball 30 times and still try to compete on defense and try to set everybody else up?" Like, I think a lot of people nowadays just completely underestimate just how much of an incredible, like, how incredible Allen Iverson stamina was, especially for a guy that doesn't like to practice. We talking about practice,
right?
He gave me that whole speech, and then would go and casually take 30 shots while still setting up the entire team and averaging like 1.5, 2 steals a game. So
and play over 40 minutes a game. Like, the guy that didn't practice played over 40 minutes a game every night. Just relentlessly. Just fearless, relentless. Yeah, it takes a lot to chuck up 30 shots. But I would ask you, like anybody with common sense would say, is if he don't take 30 shots, you want Eric Snow shooting? You want Tyrone Hill shooting? Probably not. I mean, I can go down the list. You don't want George Hill shooting. I mean, they didn't have anybody. Aaron McKee was the only other guy that was kind of an offensive player. I think he won 6 Men of the Year that particular season. But everybody else, they were just guys. They worked hard. They were overachievers, but they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. He had to take that many shots.
And I promise you guys, you weren't getting any post-up value out of those 76ers bigs. 2001 Dikembe Mutombo is not posting anybody up. And I forgot who was the guy that got injured. That he ended up, I think it was Theo Radcliffe. He wasn't really gonna give you much on offense either.
I think they traded him for Mutombo.
Yeah, they pretty much got all their value off either an Allen Iverson shot or the big men offensive rebound and put back. I know that's what the Bucks struggled in with that Game 7. Our boy, Scott Williams, that was his name. Scott Williams got himself suspended for Game 7, and then Mutombo just completely overwhelmed everybody on the glass because we didn't have enough size.
And that's a good example too, because if you look at the matchups on paper, Brett, y'all had Sam Cassell at his prime, Ray Allen, Big Dog Robinson. Y'all had a squad. Like on paper, y'all supposed to maul them. And what happened was the Sixers came in the much more physical team, and they made the series a grind. They made it physical, and a series that shouldn't have been a 7-game series on paper became a 7-game series. And like you said, when Scott Williams wasn't there to contest on the board, Mutombo was huge in Game 7, and that was the difference.
Yeah. And we even had George Karl. As much as I dislike George Karl, he was a good coach at the time. So
you know what George Karl is? George Karl is the earlier version of Doc Rivers.
Yeah. It's funny because I'll never dislike. I don't like George Karl for what he did coaching. I will always dislike him for doing the me or him game with Ray Allen and us trading Ray Allen for like 100-year-old Gary Payton. Like, really, I like Gary Payton, but he's old. He has no future with us in the league, and he was there for 18 games, then booked in free agency, while Ray Allen went to dominate in Seattle. So I was like, thanks, George.
Yeah, I didn't get that, how you give up on Ray Allen, because he was just coming into his peak, and then he went to Seattle, and I know they didn't win a title, but that Seattle squad with him and Rashard Lewis, they were constantly in the mix as far as being contenders.
No, absolutely. It came down to him and George Karl having a beef, and George Karl went to the front office and said, me or him, and the front office should have been like, okay, yeah, bye, George. Nope, they sent Ray Allen packing, then George Karl left like the following offseason, so it didn't even matter yet either.
Yeah, you know what? In today's NBA, if the coach go me or him, it's the coach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially when it's a talent like
right.
Ray Allen was in his prime. It's like, okay, yeah, so get out of here.
Right. Exactly. The coaches now, they got to learn how to be friends with the players.
Mm-hmm. So, also wanted to bring up what Mr. Patrick Beverly said. Pat Bev was on his Pat Bev show, and he came up with an idea. To me, it sounds terrible. This is one of these ideas that on paper, you look at the names and it might not seem like a terrible idea. But then, like, you realize, like, you watch them on the court and you're like, oh, no, please. Pat Bev went out and said, yeah, the Kings should trade for Julius Randle. Now, there's so many issues with that, but the real opening one is you just traded for DeMar DeRozan. Right. DeMar DeRozan likes to stop the ball. At least he draws fouls, but he does take a lot of really like tough mid-ranges. Julius Randle likes to stop the ball and also just take a lot of tough contested shots. Both of them can pass, but they're just such ball stoppers. And it's just such an awkward suggestion, and it's just an awkward fit to me, at least.
It's a terrible suggestion. It's almost taking you back to the Phoenix situation. You already got Fox, Sabonis, you added DeMar DeRozan, and you've got Keegan Murray. You don't need another scorer. And this guy's not just a scorer, he's ball dominant. He's a 250-pound ball dominant 3-point shooter. He lives to take contested threes. Like, it'd be one thing if Julius Randle, with the body that he has, constantly attack the basket or posted people up. That's not what he does. He dances outside and takes fall away threes. I'm sorry. If you're trying to win and be taken seriously as a contender, what you don't do is add Julius Randle to your roster.
And like my worst fear, Mo, is actually the defensive end. Because I think somebody on Twitter was like, oh man, because they try to defend the idea, like, imagine a Fox, Monk, Randle, DeRozan, Sabonis lineup. And I was like, that lineup's going to have like an 150 defensive rating. Nobody's going to stop anything on the perimeter, and Sabonis isn't a rim protector. So, like, literally, I don't care how much you're scoring with that lineup. You are hemorrhaging a lot more points than you are ever thinking about scoring with that lineup.
Agreed. Look, I already think with the addition of DeMar, I think they should play DeMar a lot like you said Phoenix should do Beal. I think, yeah, you know how Eagles are, right? So you start DeMar, but 5 minutes into the game, you pull him. And then when Sabonis and Fox go to the bench to take their break, let DeMar run with the second unit and then have him later on in the closing lineup. I don't think you need DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox, and Sabonis on the floor because I think that having those kind of scores, too many of them will stagnate what Keegan Murray could become. Like I just think that if you want Keegan Murray to continue to develop, there's no way you can have all of those guys on the floor at the same time. You got to stagger their minutes. Obviously, Sabonis and Fox are your two main guys, but you can stagger DeMar's minutes if you're going to get the best version of him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I kind of wanted to throw this out here too, Mo. And because this is driving me crazy. So I was actually talking with some buddies about the New Orleans Pelicans situation, really about their center situation, because I told them, it's like, this is why I hate the Pelicans. They don't have a center. I'm sorry. UV Missy and Daniel Tice don't move me in the year 2024. And, I'm looking on Twitter for, Pelicans discourse, and I'm seeing a lot of people like, yeah, you know what the answer is? Zion at center. He's big enough for like, okay, and this is just something I want to throw out there, guys. All because you have a big player that does not automatically mean they can play small ball center. All because you have a 6'9" and 6'10" player does not automatically mean they're a small ball center. I don't think that the Pelicans have an actual center, but I just wanted to point this out because it just bothered me so much because it seems like every single guy who's like 260, 270 or 6'9" or 6'10", they're like, small ball center. Well, Draymond did it at 6'7", 6'6", 6'7". Guys, and this is where my point, because I think he also gets undervalued, and I almost picked him. I think too many people undervalue Draymond Green.
Agreed.
And just the defensive versatility that man has. Because he's tricked people. He's made everybody think that if you're 6'7" or taller, you can play small ball center without realizing, like, Draymond has ridiculously long arms. He has great processing speed that a lot of people don't have. The agility to actually play 1 through 5 and the strength to bang with fives. Like, he's just such a unicorn defensively. I think too many people just undervalue what Draymond Green brings to the table and now think that you can just replicate Draymond with anybody. And it drives me up a wall, Mo.
And you can't. You can't replicate him. The closest guy to being anywhere near what Draymond is, and I'm just being real, I'm just talking about skill set, not where he is right now in his career. The closest guy would be Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, if he was mentally, if his head was right, Ben Simmons is a taller, much more athletic version of Draymond. Now he really is when he's right, but he hasn't been right in 4 years. But so you have to appreciate one, Draymond's ability, like you said, to process. Not to mention the fact his basketball IQ through the roof, and he's got a lot of dog in him. Like, you can have all the size in the world, it doesn't mean you got that thing in your chest. The real ones, the unique ones, like a Dennis Rodman who could play against bigs. Draymond's one of those kind of guys. Zion weighs what? 260, 270. He's actually not 6'9". He's closer to 6'6". He's not tall. Not for a forward. He really isn't. If you put him at center and the other center is halfway decent and can score, they're going to score. There's nothing he can do. There's nothing he will do. He'll just get in foul trouble. He's not a good defender. So you're not helping him out because he's not a good defender at his normal position. Now you want to put him against bigger players. That's setting him up for failure. So you have to be smarter than that. What they need to go out and get them a legitimate rim runner who can give them double digits rebounding. Because right now, everybody talks about all the talent they have. Yeah, I can see on paper a healthy Zion, Bi. You just got what's my guy DeJounte Murray from Atlanta. CJ still there. Alvarado's still there. Yeah, they have talent, no question. But what we've said this every year with the Pelicans. If Zion's healthy, they might do this or they might do that. How many times do we get to the playoff and Zion's healthy? After a while, at some point, if you're the Pelicans, and I hope this young man not only has a really good season, that he can take his season into the playoffs and show and prove in the playoffs. But if he's injured again before the playoffs, if I'm the Pelicans, at some point you have to realize you have to cut bait. It's nothing personal. He has all the talent maybe to be a number one and lead you, but he's one of those guys, Brett, and you know this throughout sports, be it baseball, football, or basketball, who the health gods, they hate him for whatever reason. He's going to always be banged up. He's always going to be nicked up. It just is what it is. You got to get off of him.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's just unfortunate because he is a lot of fun to watch when healthy. I think all of his defensive value comes from the weak side. If you ask him to guard somebody one-on-one, the man's going to get cooked, but he's somebody you have to pay attention to if he's not on the ball, and I think that's almost where all his value exclusively at this point comes from. I'm hoping for a healthy Zion year, man. I want to see it
too,
because it feels like we saw what Zion could be against your Lakers in that playoff game when he was going absolutely berserk. Nobody could stay in front of him. He was dishing to everybody. But true Zion experience, it ended in injury. So I'm hoping for a healthy year. And I think the best name that the Pelicans could realistically target right now that I can think that's available at the center position, probably Walker Kessler. Like he's available in Utah. And honestly, he deals with foul trouble, but even if you can get a solid 20 minutes a game or so out of him, I think that'd be a really good step in the right direction compared to what you have now.
Oh, I agree. The first two names that came to my head was Walker Kessler and Clint Capella. But I would, if I had the choice, I'm taking Walker Kessler because he's still developing. I think he's gonna when he's all said and done, he's gonna be a solid double guy. Everybody loves Big Z out there with the Clippers. I think Walker Kessler would be a better version of Big Z.
No, absolutely. And our boy Kendrick Perkins was talking, and honestly, I don't hate this take. I don't hate this take at all, actually. I think it's a very real chance the Knicks do end up with the best record in the league.
They might. I don't think it's a crazy take. But we got to tell the whole story. Yes, they could very well end up with the number one seed. Let's say they have the best record in the league. I'll put it out there right now, and this isn't me not liking the Knicks. This is just me as a basketball fan. They could have the number one seed in the East. They're not coming out of the East. I said it.
Oh,
they're not coming out of the East.
Oh, the story writes itself. They're going to get the number one seed, then get the Hawks at the 8th seed. Trae Young's going to send them packing again, isn't he? That would be the most hilarious story.
Ooh. If it happens, that's the beauty of sports. If something like that happens, and that's not impossible, depending because matchups sometimes make series. The first thing people are going to say is, "Well, Brunson's going to kill Trae Young." No, he's not, because Trae Young's not going to guard him. The problem is, as much as I love Brunson, he can't guard Trae Young either. And if you get Trae Young on a heater when that three is falling and he's getting to the line 12 times a game, he's controlling the pace of the series. Once he gets on one, impossible to stop.
And I think with the Hawks, really the X factor with them is what are you getting out of Rasheer here? Because obviously we didn't see anything from him in summer league. Like I think you saw defensively what he could be. I thought he was fantastic defensively, but offensively, Ooh, he just kind of existed. He was there. He was just bad offensively. So
I don't know what they're doing though. If you've got Capella, you've got Okongwe, and now what are you doing? Why do you need three of the same guy? What are you doing? This is why some franchises stay bad. There's some guy in the front office that's going to be like, I'm going to go another way. Instead of getting the perimeter player and spacing the floor more, I'm going to get the market on all the bigs. It doesn't make any sense unless you're going to move one of them. Unless you're going to move a Conway or Capella, who's the older guy, because I think Capella's around 31. But to have three guys like that, it's just dumb. It doesn't make any sense.
and not to I think only having that many bigs works if you're a team like Minnesota, where like two of them can space the floor and they all have different skill sets that can actually match each other.
I like that. That's a great comp. Right. And that's different, right? Because Towns is actually a center too, but he doesn't play center now. He's a stretch four. And then you got Naz Reid, who plays center, but he's kind of a stretch four. And then you've got Rudy, who's a rim protector / rebounder and a roller. They make that work because two of the guys are actually shooters. They actually space the floor. The problem in Atlanta is all three of those guys are rollers. They're all three rollers. None of them can shoot. It's just dumb.
The game plan, just everybody roll to the basket, Trae Young will throw it up. One of them you'll tip it in, right?
Well, look, DeJounte Murray's gone, so that's another 10 more shots for Trae Young.
Whew, yeah. And, I'll give respect to another guy from New York. They asked Carmelo if he played nowadays, how many points per game would he average? I got to give him all the props in the world. We've heard a lot of old heads go, I'm scoring 40, 45, 50, 35. Carmelo gave a very realistic answer. He goes, I'd probably score like 28. And you know what? I'll give him all the credit in the world. I think that's not only realistic, I think maybe he undersold himself by a couple points. I think he could get to 30, 32.
You're dropping Carmelo Anthony fresh out of Syracuse into this NBA with his legs, because I think a lot of people forget, because you didn't really see that in New York. But when he had his legs, Melo was banging on people. He was elevating over people. Like, young Melo was a problem. You bring him into the current league, the way the game is called, yeah, I think he scores 30 a night. I think his rebounds go up a little bit. I think his shooting of a percentage is a little bit higher. I think he's a little bit more efficient. But yeah, to his credit, he didn't say I would average 45 or 50. To say 28, and to me, like you said, that's almost him being kind of modest, right? Because I think the younger version of him, still, when you look at him, remember, Melo goes about 240. Most small forwards aren't that big. He's almost power forward size, which is why he was able to bully ball most guys at his position. I think Carmelo would easily get 28 to 30 a night, but I love the fact that he had some perspective and kept it real. Like, he didn't say something out of his world like, well, if I'm motivated, I'll get 60. He didn't say nothing like that.
Well, he'd get 60 feet, I guess, if he played the Bobcats every night. That man had like a vendetta against like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist and the Bobcats, and he just absolutely torched them. But to be fair, who didn't torch the Bobcats?
I never get there's the Bobcats. It's one of those organizations, and this is directly attached to Michael Jordan. What was Mike doing? Mike, you honestly didn't see that slingshot shot that Kidd-Gilchrist? It was hideous. It was hideous. He drafts the guy that high, and he's like, he's gonna be a great defender. Mike, on the other end of the floor, nobody's guarding him. Nobody. No need to. And he wasn't a good defender. It just horrible. I mean, I don't think he got one draft pick right. Not one. I mean, I take that back. Maybe the jury's still out. Talent-wise, we believe LaMelo, I think he got it right in terms of the talent. But I don't know if LaMelo's going to have a great career, because he seems to be every bit as brittle as his brother. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of LaMelo Ball, and I kind of always been. I think that talent-wise, I think he's right up there with guys like, Tyrese Halliburton, but unfortunately, he
I
just
think
hasn't stay healthy.
I like that comp. Yeah, look, a lot of people think, "Oh, Mo, you be bagging on Halliburton." No, I think Tyrese Halliburton is an all-star. He's not a superstar. Y'all so quick to anoint people. He's not a superstar. He's an all-star. And if he wants to become a superstar, I think he's got to learn how to stop looking to pass all the time when you penetrate in the paint. When you touch the paint, bro, attack the basket. You're not a 6'2" point guard. You're a legitimate 6'7". Attack the rim, dunk the ball. I think when he becomes a little bit more selfish, a little bit more aggressive, they'll be a better team. But right now, I think he can only play one style. And when you can slow down the game and make them have to execute in the half court, he's a completely different player.
No, that's fair enough. And I thought we'd have a little fun, Mo. And there's a fun game that I like to play. Have you ever played Hoop Grids?
I don't think so.
Okay. So there's two different games that I mess around and play. One's called Hoop Grids and the other's called I Got Game. Hoop Grids, it'll give you like a grid of teammates, and you just got to find similar teammates and really try to fill out the grid of connecting teammates. It's a lot of fun. The game that I wanted to play with you though is called I Called Game.
Okay.
And we've never done this on And One, and I just thought this one might be fun. So let me kind of show you how it looks. So it's really simple. It starts you off with this. So we'll start with what teams are playing. I think we can assess that. That's the Lakers and Phoenix. And the fun part about it is you just kind of see how many points you get and see how many different players and coaches you remember. So next round. Oh, so here we go. So like ask, what year did these two teams play? Let's see, that's LeBron, AD. That's Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol was with you guys in 2020?
Damn. We did have Marc Gasol.
Yeah, that was the championship team that had him, or was that the year after?
I want to say the year after because I don't remember him being in the bubble. I don't think so.
Oh right, yeah. I think you're right. Yep, 2021. Oh, okay.
And we had both Gasol brothers. You almost forget that Mark was there, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. All right, these two. Phoenix leads the series 3-2. 2021. They played in the first round, right?
I would assume.
Like 90% sure that this was a first round series. Okay.
Wait,
this is where it starts to get fun. Like, all right, head coaches. The Suns was Monty Williams. I'm 90% sure. In 2021. Was it Monty? Lakers was
Frank Vogel?
Vogel, yeah. All right, we're cooking. Here's where this gets tough. Can we name the 14 Lakers players and the 10 Lakers players who played in this game?
I wouldn't remember. I didn't even know Mark was on the team.
So we know Marc Gasol is there.
And we know AD and LeBron are there. Right?
Oh, yeah. And this is where this game gets really intense and fun, because now you have to really dig deep, like, all right, who are really on these teams? Okay, I think I see Dennis Schroeder.
Schroeder was there. You got that right.
I think Rondo was still on that team.
Rondo was there. You got that right.
Oh, it says he wasn't in
What?
2021.
Really? Must have traded him. I'm
Danny
shocked.
Green still on the team? No? Okay.
Danny Green. 2021.
The hard part is the Lakers emptied their bench, so it's trying to remember who came in off the bench too. Start naming some Suns players. Oh gosh, forgot how to spell Chris Paul for a second. Chris Paul.
Bridges is there, right?
Yeah.
And I gotta assume Cam Johnson is there, right? Because they're boys, they're the same age.
That's right. It's gonna make me spell out Cameron. All right, here we go. Oh, the other Cam was there. Payne.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. He went crazy out of nowhere. What's his name? Ayton. I don't remember too many of these players because we played the Suns in the finals.
Right. When your boy there, Jay Crowder? Or
he
no?
was. Oh, Frank Kaminsky was there.
Frank the Tank.
I only remember that because I remember just kind of going, questioning because it was the finals and they brought in Frank, and I'm just kind of like, why are you bringing in Frank Kaminsky in a finals game? And then just to spite me, he played super well. So, oh, duh, the Lakers had Alex Caruso. 90% sure they still had him. Yeah,
Should have never let him go.
I still honestly don't want to torture you with this one, but I still can't believe that the Lakers had KCP, Green, and Caruso and just kind of let them all walk.
Well, they did a lot of that to get Westbrook, which was not good, not wise. Speaking of which, somebody said today that Russell Westbrook is the fourth greatest point guard to ever play in the NBA.
Fourth greatest point guard.
I think I sent you that, and I was like no, yeah, and I was like, I don't dislike Russ. He was a freakish athlete, and his freakish athleticism made him a tough cover. But and I know he's an incredible stat stuffer, but who would you say that he's a better player than? Like when you think about players of all time at point guard, I'm not taking Russ over Steve Nash. I'm not taking Russ over Jason Kidd. I'm not taking Russ over Isaiah Thomas. I'm not taking Russ, of course, over Magic Johnson. I'm not taking Russ over Steph Curry. I'm not taking Russ over Chris Paul. I mean, this list will get a lot longer. I'm not taking him over Oscar Robertson. I keep going. I mean, come on, man. Y'all got to look, the numbers, I get it. But, man, there are a lot of great point guards who actually played point guard. Russ was unique because he played point guard, but he shot the ball like he was the number one option because he was shooting 28, 22 times a game, and he was never a great shooter. It's weird because somebody said, well, Russ was a Batman, and I'm like, yeah, he shot like Batman. But in terms of how he shot the ball, he was more like Alfred.
The issue with Russ was he needed to be a Batman to really thrive, but you couldn't win a title with him as Batman.
No.
And it put you in a position like you want to maximize Russ, he needs to be Batman, but you're not going to win a title with him as Batman. So
you're not going to win a first round series. The year that Paul George, his claim to fame that he came in third in the MVP voting, what happened? Dame does a step back and waves bye-bye to both of them. That's first round. The next time around, they bring in it. What is it? It's Melo. Who is it? It was three. It was Melo, Russ, and who was the third player for OKC? Who am I forgetting?
Let's say they ran the Melo, Russ, and PG that one year.
And the point is, they play Utah in the first round, and guess what happened? Bye-bye again. Bye-bye again. That's with Russ as the guy. Look, a terrific player. He is, but the best version of Russell Westbrook, if you're trying to win, he's not the guy. He's probably, I wouldn't even say he should be your number 2. He should be like your number 3. I don't think he has it in him to step back and be a number 3, but that's what he probably should have been. I totally understand. And you can make the argument, well, Mo, when he and Durant were teammates, they went to 5 Western Conference finals. That's right. That's impressive. When they were 22, 23, 24, 25, you're right. They were such freakish talents. On that alone, they went that many times. And they went to a finals, obviously. And they played well in the finals. But it's about results, right? Like when they lost to older veteran teams. When they were killing Golden State, I remember that series. I'm sure you remember that series. It's 3-1. We're thinking the series is over because they had no problem with Golden State. And next thing you know, it's 3-3. And when it got to be 3-3, I already knew who was winning the series.
Yeah, Russ kind of got into like this headspace where he had to really be the guy and take over. And that sunk OKC a lot. Like there are games where Russ has like 20 missed shots. And I'm looking puzzled, like, dude, you have Kevin Durant on your team. Like, take some of those shots and just give him the ball and get out of the way, and your offense just gets exponentially better.
Well, the problem was Russ was the alpha when it comes to personality. KD's a better player, but he deferred to Russ too many times. If I got Kevin Durant and he's in his 20s, dude, I'm going to make you shoot the ball 22, 23 times a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Russ definitely has like a top 10 point guard argument, but I think a lot of people get like blinded by just the raw counting stats, which are incredible.
They
Russ
are
was
insane.
Absolutely incredible. Like in his 16-17, he could carry some bad rosters to the playoffs, which is impressive enough. He was a great floor raiser, but if you're looking for a guy to really just elevate your ceiling and take you from playoff team to title contender, I can name you a handful of guys. I can name you probably close to 10 at the point guard position that can do that better than Russ. I think a guy, you can say that Russ had a better peak than Kyrie Irving, but I can win a title with Kyrie Irving in a Batman role. I can build and work around someone like Kyrie Irving. Can I win a title with Russ in an alpha, Batman or Robin role?
Right. And what Kyrie did was he won a title in the Robin role, but he also went to multiple finals in the Robin role. Like if it's about winning, keep it 100. You're taking Kyrie over Russ. You are. You're trying to win. I'm not killing Russ because you can't deny what kind of competitor he was, how productive he was, the highlights, all those things. But there's a lot of point guards that I'm choosing ahead of him. I'm taking KJ, Kevin Johnson, Phoenix Suns. I'm taking him over Russ. I'm taking Mark Price over Russ. Like there's a lot of point guards that I'm taking ahead of Russell Westbrook because I'm trying to. If you're talking about winning, that's the key. I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about that. I'm talking about winning. I'm taking a lot of guys over Russell. And I know it's strange to say because at the same time, the comeback's going to be, well, Russell's going to be in the Hall of Fame, bro. And a lot of those, yes, you're right. Some of those guys aren't in the Hall of Fame. And there are a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame that never won anything. I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that. But I said this years ago before Durant ever left. You're not going to win nothing like that. Not the way Russ plays. You're not going to win like that. Like he'd have a lot of missed shots, but he also have like 6 or 7 turnovers.
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, I will say we talked about how great Sam Presti drafted. In that like early when he got Russ, Harden, Ibaka, and all them. That was truly like a generational run. And overall, I think Sam Presti's been an excellent GM. Even getting guys like Oladipo and Sabonis, even though, they ended up getting flipped to different teams. That being said, Sam Presti between and this just kind of goes to show how amazing talents guys like Kevin Durant were. I swear that man just did not know how to build a team. Like, the free agent that portion of things outside of drafting was really bad, and it's almost like this run he's on now. It's like him trying to apologize. I'm sorry for messing up the primes of Kevin Durant. I probably shouldn't have signed Kendrick Perkins, Steven Adams, Enes Kanter duos. To be clear, Steven Adams, great. Trying to play him and Enes Kanter at the same time, not so great. But I will give him credit. He's grown. He's made a lot better decisions since then. But man, he was so rough in free agency in that stretch. It was unbelievable.
It was started with the fact that he traded Harden. And I don't know if you remember what Harden was asking for. Harden and his agent, they wanted a 4-year, $44 million contract. 4 years, $44 million. And this is James Harden at age 22, 23. Now, granted, he was really, really good. Clearly, he had talent. I'll be the first to admit, I had no idea when James Harden went to Houston that he was going to become that. I did not think, well, once James Harden gets away from the Thunder, he's going to become one of the top scorers in the league, and he just tore it up. He tore it up statistically. Although, if we're killing Russ, they share some of the same shortcomings. They do. In Harden's case, because in Russ' case, it's never about his heart or how hard he plays. In Harden's case, I've always had the feeling he had a little bit of quit in him. And he tended to disappear at the worst times. Clearly a gifted player, good enough to take the Rockets to multiple conference finals, but not good enough to get over the hump. Again, a great player, first ballot Hall of Famer. You know what? Here's an interesting question. I know James Harden is primarily a scorer, but is James Harden a better point guard than Russell Westbrook? Because I would tell you that James Harden has a higher basketball IQ. He definitely does. I would tell you that he's a better natural passer. Like a lot of Russ assists, they're really weird assists, like where he almost over penetrates and he literally almost hands the ball off to the center. It almost looks like a football player. Then the guy goes up and dunks it. Harden gets legit assists. I'm just saying, I would argue that James Harden is a better point guard than Russell Westbrook. I would.
It's funny, Mo, because I did ask this question, and I'll ask it here. At what point do we classify James Harden as a point guard? Because he started out as a shooting guard, and he played shooting guard, but when he got to Houston, he pretty much turned into a point guard. He was a shooting guard, but he always dominated the ball. He was the one leading the league in assists outside of the years Chris Paul was there. He was always the entire focal point of the offense, and people are like, oh, he transitioned to a true point guard once he got to Brooklyn. No, not really. He just kind of played a toned-down version of what he's been doing in Houston. The man's always been the main ball handler and primary facilitator. So
my
question is, when do we move James Harden from all-time shooting guard conversations to all-time point guard conversations?
You know what? The guy can travel in both lanes. The guy was averaging 30 and giving 10 and 11 assists. Also getting around 7 or 8 boards. He had 3 or 4 seasons that LeBron never had. LeBron led the league in assists one time. He had one double-digit assist season. That was the year that he led the league in assists. James Harden did it multiple times. James Harden had multiple 30 and 10 seasons. That's a really good question. I think you're right. I think that James Harden was a point guard even when he was dropping 28 and 30 a night because he just basically he was running the same D'Antoni system. He was Steve Nash on steroids. He was Steve Nash. If you wanted to know what Steve Nash could have done had Steve Nash taken 19 or 20 shots a game, watch James Harden because James Harden was taking 20, 22 shots a game. If Steve Nash wasn't really more of a traditional point guard and shot the ball well. You don't think Steve Nash would have averaged 26 points a game? I think he could have gave you 26 and still had double digits assists, but he just chose to let everybody else eat. James Harden literally had the ball in his hand like LeBron, like Luka does now, and people go, well, look what Luka doing, Mo. Isn't Luka just, we keep talking how James Harden was Steve Nash on steroids. Isn't Luka just James Harden on steroids on another level? Like Luka's a little bit, he's more efficient than James Harden when it comes to his scoring. He's bigger than James Harden, but he does some of the same things. He dribbles the air out the ball, dominates the ball. So he's always going to be the guy that puts up numbers. We already have Luka in the point guard conversation. If Luka's already in the point guard conversation, then James Harden should be in the point guard conversation.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. Like, I think too many people get, focused on, James Harden has 0 rings. Cool. James Harden was so good offensively at his peak. There were legit conversations. People were saying, who's the better offensive player, James Harden or Michael Jordan? And they're having legit discussions and legit debates about it. And whichever direction you want to go, the crazy part is you might not be wrong. That's just how good peak James Harden was offensively. Now, obviously, I'd give the edge to MJ because his game translated to the postseason, and James Harden, when the whistle tightened up, it didn't always go in his favor, but it's just, he was pure insanity. So, yeah, I've always held James Harden in very high regard as a player.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, he came up short in the playoffs sometimes. But to be fair, look at the teams that he came up short against. Like, I don't think he went into any of those series the favorite. Maybe the one time he might have been the favorite. No, he wasn't even the favorite then, when it was him and Chris Paul, and they took the Warriors to 7 games. And obviously, they were actually in control of the series when, of course, we all know Chris Paul got hurt. Chris Paul got hurt, changed the series. But look, he's probably not going to win a championship in his career, but the guy was an elite scorer. I think he was an elite playmaker. Whatever you feel for Luka or anybody else that's ball dominant in their numbers, I think you have to give James Harden the same grace. And although while you and I both think at some point Luka may win a title because he's younger, it's not etched in stone. Luka could very well play out his whole career, come very close, and never win anything.
Yeah, no, and of course, and not to mention, I would also argue that Luka's team in Dallas is just better than what James Harden was dealing with in Houston. And I know that sounds crazy, but you start looking at like the roster, like for example, do we really blame him for not winning in 2018, 2019 when we're running small forward duo of James Ennis III and Daniel House? Last year, it's not that much. Like, it's a better roster the year before. Like, you're running Trevor Ariza, which, Trevor Ariza in the year 2018 isn't necessarily the greatest thing ever, but serviceable.
Right.
PJ Tucker, Ryan Anderson, like, he can shoot, and that's about it. He gives you nothing on defense. Luka Mamute, who's literally almost the exact opposite, can play defense, but gives you next to nothing on offense.
Right.
Like, the center rotation, and there's 3 centers that got over 500 minutes, and this is hilarious. Clint Capella, Nene, Tarek Black.
Man, that Tarek Black gets around, doesn't he?
Yeah, like, if Tarek Black is getting, like, minutes, even, like, over 500 minutes on your team, you might just not have that, amazing, like, of a team. I don't want to say they were bad. Like, obviously, you got to be good to push the Dynasty Warriors to 7 games. But I also think that maybe that team gets a little overvalued, and we just underrate just how great James Harden and Chris Paul were on that team. Because once you start breaking down the rest of the roster, you're just kind of like, what the fuck did this team even get close to pushing the Warriors to 7?
Yeah, look, the health gods can be very unforgiving. Chris Paul struggled with those untimely injuries. Had he not gotten hurt, I can't say for sure they would have beat the Warriors or not, but let's keep it a buck. Golden State was in trouble, serious trouble. And even without Chris Paul in game 7, if James Harden and his Rocket teammates don't miss 34 threes, 34 threes, and they lose a one possession game, like at some point, coach, maybe we should take it to the hole, right? Because we're not making any threes.
Yeah, say good old fashioned. Start popping off some middies. Like at that point, I don't care. Just do anything but shoot a three. Yeah, it's just really unfortunate it's like unfortunate how I view James Harden and how he'll actually be remembered.
Oh yeah. Look, and I get it. He's made some odd decisions. I actually thought when he went to Philly, Brett, that he would finish out his career there because I thought, okay, he can be in Philly, play with Embiid, be content averaging 16 points a game, getting 10 assists, really becoming even a more of a point guard. And it all kind of came apart because the Philly fans, A, weren't in loving him because of what happened in the playoffs, and B, apparently him and Daryl Morey had a conversation in which Daryl Morey told him, according to James Harden, I'm going to get you your money. And then Daryl Morey was like, I don't even know what James is talking about. And then James comes back and goes, he's a liar. And you knew right then and there that relationship was over. And now you got James Harden and the Clippers. Look, I hate when great players in their careers and they play their last 4 or 5 years on 4 or 5 different teams. I hope whatever they are, James Harden retires a Clipper. I don't want him to go nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see him change jerseys again. Like, dude, let the chips fall where they may. Maybe you guys make an unexpected run, and maybe you don't. But your career could end with the Clippers, and it could end in a good way. Because I feel like if you look at what's left of James Harden as a player, you can pencil him in 16, 17 points a game, 10 assists. You can book that at a minimum.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's hope he everything goes as planned with James Harden. And yeah, let's say, do you have any other topics or questions you want to bring up, Mo?
We always have thousands of things we can talk about, man. We have a blast. We have a blast. Matter of fact, what was the take that I sent you? Our guy, one of our guys from Hoops Temple. It was Aaron. I forgot what he said. That kind of froze me. Was it about Russ?
I think it was. I think it was the Russ being the better Batman than Kyrie.
That's what it was. No, the thing was, who was the better Robin? That was the initial. Yeah. That was the initial question, and he said he had Russ, and I was like, you can't be the better Robin. The ultimate goal in any sport is to win a title. They went to 1 finals. It'd be one thing if Durant and Westbrook went to 3 or 4 finals and lost. You could still say, well, they were great enough to get to 4 or 5 finals. They went to 1 finals and then never sniffed it again. Russell Westbrook hasn't played in another finals. Kyrie Irving has played in multiple finals, and he won a title, and he hit the monster shot. Like, that's what a Robin does. A Robin steps up when Batman does everything else. Kyrie did that. Russell Westbrook never did that. I'm sorry. You can point out Russell's numbers when he's like the man, but then you're talking about him as a Batman, and that goes against the question. If I'm trying to win and I walk into a gym and Russ is right there and Kyrie's right there, I'm like, yo, Kyrie, let's go. Let's get it, because I'm trying to win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, if I was building a team and I had to pick a Robin, I would pick Kyrie too.
I think what gets lost over time too with Kyrie, I'm not saying he's Klay Thompson. I'm not saying he's Steph Curry. But we look at what Kyrie can do when he breaks people down off the dribble, Brett, with his handle, and you forget Kyrie damn near shoots 50, 40, 90. You know what I mean? Like you forget that this dude can shoot. This dude can shoot as well as some of the best shooters in basketball. And we don't even talk about that. But he's an incredible shot maker. He's not just a guy that can break you down off the dribble. Kyrie's got a J. He's got the handle. He's got the J. He can shoot from range. Like, he has a complete offensive package.
No, I 100% agree. He's just tough. Just an elite shot maker from all three levels. There's nothing that man really can't do on offense except play well in Boston. But
That's true. As a visitor or as a player in Boston, he just doesn't play well in Boston, right? I'm with you.
It's just like at this point, I don't even think it's about the talent or anything at this point. I think it's just a mental block with him. I think there's got to be something in here that just gives him the heebie-jeebies in Boston, because
I think
that's
so.
like the one building every time he steps into. Like, whatever you expect from him, cut it in half, because he just seems to like start rushing shots and he throws himself off.
And I think those fans, they find a way to make it personal with him, right? Because they're never going to let him forget what he said that one off season when he said, "Oh no, I want to retire here. This is where I want to go. I'm not going anywhere." And then what did he do? He bounced. They're never going to forgive that. Never.
Yeah, a player saying that they want to stay with your team is like retiring in the WWE. It's never going to happen. It's never permanent. Don't take too much stock into it. Paul George has wanted to retire on 4 different teams now. LeBron never wanted to leave Cleveland. So
he never wanted to leave Cleveland, Brett. But not only did he leave Cleveland for Miami, he went back to Cleveland, won a title, and left Cleveland again. He left Cleveland again. Like it's a relationship. They broke up, got back together, and he broke her heart again. Did it again.
No, I will always say I do not blame LeBron at all for leaving the first time.
No, the first time I got you.
I was like, people always seem to hold it against, like, oh, he left for Miami. It's like, if they if the management did as bad of a job as they did building around LeBron the first time, yeah, I would leave too. No question.
I had no problem with him leaving to go play with the Heat. I don't blame him. Good for him. I thought at the time, well, this guy's going to retire a Heat. But then, I started to know more about him, not as a player, but how he thought beyond that. And look, say what you want, the guy is brilliant, and he recognizes what's going on around him. He recognized Dwayne Wade's legs, those knees, they weren't that great. Chris Bosh wasn't aging that well. LeBron was like, it's time to bounce, right? I know he made the thing about how him and Pat Riley didn't get along. I'm sure that was part of it. But on a basketball level, LeBron was like, D Wade's not flash anymore, right? Like, he's a good player, but he's not flash anymore. And Chris Bosh, I don't know if Chris Bosh was ever a superstar. I always thought he was more like an all-star. Wade and LeBron were superstars. Chris Bosh was an all-star. I thought LeBron was smart. He goes back to Cleveland. They trade Wiggins. He gets a new crew, both in their 20s, Kyrie and Love. That's just LeBron being smart. What do? They go to multiple NBA finals. They won a title. I have no problem with that. I don't even have a problem with him. I joke about it, but I didn't have a problem when he left again, because when Kyrie left ahead of him, LeBron looked around and said, well, I'm not staying here for the long term. He got smart. And when he got to LA, the funny thing was, Brett, when he got to the Lakers and people were like, he's gonna develop Lonzo, and he's gonna help develop Brandon Ingram. And remember all those young guys that were there? And I was like, no, what he's gonna do is he's gonna let them play, show their talents, and then he's gonna make sure he trades them for somebody he actually wants to play with. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see people they'll be like, oh, well, just imagine if we still had like Kuzma, Ingram, and Ball. I was like I don't think all of those guys equal out to what Anthony Davis is.
They don't.
Out of AD.
That's the crazy part. They don't. If we had kept all of them, you know what would have happened? We wouldn't have had that championship. Matter of fact, if we had kept all of them, not only wouldn't we have that championship, LeBron doesn't re-sign.
Right, and they're like, well, look at what Brandon Ingram did, though. It's like, You got to understand he developed because he got the ball in his hands in New Orleans and just a lot of rep work. That's what all these guys had. Like, these guys aren't going to develop the same playing on a LeBron-led team.
Right, because the playing style is different. If you're BI, and the funny thing is, remember when Lonzo was there, and all the people were talking about Lonzo's going to be a great point guard. Magic Johnson was Lonzo's going to have his jersey up there next to mine in the rafters when it's all said and done. And I was like, how is that ever going to happen with him playing with LeBron? Because if you play with LeBron, you're not the point guard anymore. You're not. You're a spot-up shooter. And at that time, Lonzo couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. He couldn't shoot. So he was a horrible spot-up shooter. To his credit, he got in the gym, got in the lab, worked on it. Now he became a really good three-point shooter. But what he actually is, Lonzo's a 3-and-D guy. He's not a lead point guard. He never was. He's a 3-and-D guy. Lonzo never averaged 8 or 9 assists a game. He's not that kind of point guard. He doesn't penetrate. He doesn't break guys off the dribble. That's not part of his game. He's not. I would not call him a point guard. He's closer. And remember, Lonzo Ball, Brett, he's also, I think, 6'6", 6'7".
Mm-hmm. He's a bigger point guard.
Right, but he doesn't play like a bigger point guard. That's what kills me. Dude, you're 6'6", 6'7", with some athleticism, and you never drive to the basket. I know he went to Chicago, and they were talking about how well he played for Chicago. But if we're being honest, he wasn't playing point guard. He was not their assist leader. You know who their assist leader was? It was DeRozan. Lonzo was averaging under 5 assists a game because he was a 3-and-D guy.
Lonzo just had this hilarious thing where he just wanted to play this, like, archaic 2000 style basketball where instead of going all the way to the rim, he would, like, pump fake, defender blows by, and then he pulls up for, like, a 15-footer, and every time he did it, like, this is nothing but rim. This isn't going to come close. And I think that you kind of mentioned that. And that's what helped Lonzo a ton, though, is going to the Bulls. You had 2 playmakers in DeRozan and Vooch that could really handle a lot of the playmaking duties and really make it easy for him in that lane.
And he played well. Look, this isn't me trying to tell you that he's not a good basketball player. He's a very good basketball player. If you told me, Mo, you can get a healthy Lonzo Ball, I would take him in a heartbeat because he's a winning basketball player. He's not going to be one of those guys that's ever going to be a star or a superstar. He's just really good. He's really good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Unfortunately, that's all the topics that we have for today. Don't worry, though. We'll have plenty more next week. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll make sure to come up with something extra creative.
No doubt.
I'll make sure to continue working on my list of top players going into the year, so hopefully I'll have a couple more to add to you. So, got anything you want to say, Mo?
No, I appreciate everything. Love chopping it up with you. Can't wait to come back next Thursday.
Absolutely. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, and please enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you for tuning in to the And One podcast. If you like our content, you can find more on the Wire to Wire Podcast Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Want more And One? Find it on Wire to Wire. Like and share our Facebook page and join the And One Discord. Grab the link to join from our Facebook. Thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful day.